topic of my presentation is AI at population scale, making technology work for society. So the few words that I want you to remember throughout the week is population scale and work for society. What our goal is, how can we leverage technology for the societal good? That's the whole intent of this entire week. I want to go to my next slide. Um, Hello world. What does this tell you? All the programmers out there, I know, must be thinking, here is Nivruti Rai running a program and it worked. Because every time I learned a language, whether it was the old Pascal, whether it was C, Java, or Python, or even Ruby, I started with Hello World. And Hello World here is, this is where we are with AI. We have just done the Hello World, and all the programmers out there know that there is so much more we can do. Right now, we have just scratched the surface. We figured out the compiler, we figured out the language, we figured out how the program runs, and that's what we've been able to do with AI. While what I believe, the opportunity ahead is immense. I believe the 60-70% CEOs that talk about AI, only 10 to 15% have implemented. What I believe tomorrow, AI will go to almost every segment, every area of our lives. Going to the next slide, I'm going to build this slide up. What are the opportunities that lie for India? Like I told you, that AI is only being leveraged at the surface, barely leveraged for search engines, for the web browsers, leveraged for recommendation engine, which a lot of e-retailers use, a lot of targeted messaging and advertising, and even voice bots. But the real frontier of AI is in the human-centric opportunities for the social good. In the areas of health, smart mobility, education, agriculture, and financial services. What better time than now to understand that these are the segments that will benefit tremendously from the technology like AI. AI has got to be human-centered, then only it will create the value for human beings. They can live happily, they can live an enriched life, and they can then create value. What is very interesting is Niti Aayog has published a paper that is called the White Paper for the National Strategy for AI in India. And that is also looking at a similar approach, looking at human-centered AI. And I'm happy to inform you that we as Intel have collaborated significantly on that strategy and direction. So what I believe is India has an opportunity to lead the world in showing how AI as a technology can be used to care for humans, care for society, and not be used in a manner where it is looked at weaponized technology. So our focus is going to be human-centered AI. Going to the next slide. What are some of the national level problems that we can deal with AI, and what are the requirements? The requirements, I believe, are going to be, do we have significant talent? Have we created enough IP? Do we have enough technology? Are we leveraging policies, regulations to make sure that these technologies are used for the good of humanity? Data is very clear. I spoke in my welcome address that we have factories of data. Each one of us is a factory of data. There is, industries, there are automotives, there are cities that are factories of data, generating data after data after data. The belief is by 2025, we would have 175 zettabytes of data. And today, just to let you know, that we are close to 20-30 zettabytes of data. So the data is going to see an explosion like we've never seen before. Now let's talk about talent. Just to let you know that if I look at the world talent for AI, 16% of the AI talent is in United States. 9% is in China. And I'm happy to inform you the next country is ours. India has 8% of AI talent of the world. Now, my goal is how do I make, with partnership with all of you here, 8 going to 16, going to 32, because that's the need of the hour. Now, if I look at technology, I know that there are a lot of patents being filed. There are a lot of innovations being done. If I look at US, it has filed 25% of the IP. If I look at China, 40%. So if just between US and China, they have 65% of AI IP filed. Now, the last country, which is in the list of top 3, is Japan. Japan has filed 14% patents on AI. If I look at policies, I believe with technologies like AI, which have just barely scratched the surface, need a lot of regulatory and policy support. I'm seriously looking at partnership with Telangana government, with Government of India, and all other governments who are going to be participating in creating this. Can we build a regulatory sandbox so it becomes easy for the next gen technologies like AI to be leveraged for inventions and innovations and to build solutions for the national good? I also feel if you look at targeted investments, there is significant amount of investment that China has made. China alone has invested 60% into AI. The next country is United States. 30% of the overall AI investment has happened from United States. 5% has happened from India. So I'm really happy that if I look at, the talent pool, if I look at investment, India at least is looked at in the top 3. Top 3 in talent, top 3 in investment. I feel that if I look at how do I grow my talent pool from 8 to 16 to 32, I will have to look at, building platforms where I can drive training. I have to look at how can I leverage computer architecture, software to drive more technology generation, more IP generation. How can I contribute and partner with the government to build safety, security, ethics, and privacy protection around my policy? And if I'm generating the kind of data I talked about, 175 zettabytes, I need cloud and edge. I'm trying to build my slide so I can show you what are some of the technology enablers. Can I get help, please? There it is. So we have got to look at training platforms for expanding our talent base from 8 to 16 to 32. We have got to look at computer, its architecture, software, hardware, and leverage technologies like cloud and edge for generating, storing, and analyzing the data that we will be generating for AI. Going to the next slide. Now, I talked about skilling, I talked about talent. What I want to show you is what really is the requirement for building an end-to-end solution and what is the kind of skills that we need. So this example I've taken from Intel on defect detection. And we use a lot of AI to basically look at what are the defects. So if you look at the bottommost picture, it's showing you that for an entire production deployment, AI is a small portion of the activity that we drive. There is data integration and management, there's data processing, there's decision process, there's broader application and some renewal, all of that in addition with AI. So while we think that, the people who are building a training algorithm, building inferencing algorithm is a small portion of the overall solution. Now, if I show you in the development cycle of AI, even there is labeling of data, loading of data, augmenting data, experimenting with technologies, and many other things. The point here that I'm trying to make is when I'm looking at the 8% going to 16%, going to 32%, I have to look at multiple disciplines. And I'm happy to share that if I look at what are the disciplines that we already have that make the 8%, these are the programmers, the mathematicians, the statisticians, as well as the people who drive data analytics. So I'm very confident that with the reskilling and the training programs that we have and many of other partners are driving, I really believe that India will not have challenge in making its 8% AI talent into 16% and 32% and so on. Now, while I talked about skilling, the next thing is what is happening to compute. What is happening is every 3 to 4 months, the requirement for compute is doubling. Why? Because the amount of data that we are generating is higher and higher and higher. And why? Because the bigger the data set is, the bigger the compute requirement is, because the more accurate my model for AI prediction is. The studies that people have been showing is that along with hardware and software, the AI improvement that we will see is called double exponential. We are seeing the hardware take the quality of AI and its inferencing and its training to an exponential growth. But if I add software to it, we are going to see what is called a double exponential in AI efficiency and in AI model, and therefore the value that we can give to the society. Now, data transforms into information, information transforms into knowledge. That is what we are after in the multiple segments that we talked about. How can this be enabled? Through compute. This will be enabled through compute, which has various architectures: scalar compute, vector compute, matrix compute, and spatial compute. We will require connectivity. There will be clusters of data, clusters of servers here, clusters of servers there. They need to be connected. There is going to be requirement for Ethernet, for optical fibers. There's going to be requirement of huge memory. If I'm going to generate significant amount of data like 175 zettabytes that I talked about, we have to have large memory and the memory architecture which is efficient. So the demand is growing, the skilling is required, various disciplines is required. That's the only way we can come up with solutions for AI for societal good. Going to the next slide. What we have done. So like I told you, this next 4 to 5 days is not a conference. It's a confluence of people coming together to make the technology as a backbone, especially AI and the requirements for AI as the backbone for problem solves that solve the societal good challenges. We have been working on 4 areas over the last 2 years. First one is India driving data set. What we've done is over the last 2 years, we have collected data, traffic data from Karnataka, from Telangana, and we literally have several petabytes of data, which we are leveraging to create algorithms for societal good. For example, collision avoidance. We have done pilots in several cities where we are looking at collision avoidance. While autonomous driving is not something that I'm excited about for India yet, what I'm excited about for India is how can I remove all of those accidents that happen on the road that cause 17 deaths in an hour. These AI algorithms will give plenty warning to the driver such that the driver can avoid the imminent accident. We have seen with these collision avoidance algorithms, 45 to 75% of collisions can be avoided. Not only that, accidents happen due to poor road infrastructure as well. So what we've done is we have built what is called a gray zone mapping. For every XY coordinate, we have a color coding to tell if it is black, then the road infrastructure is poor, or the lighting is poor, or the banking is bad, or the turn is bad. We have created maps that the government can leverage to fix the infrastructure such that driver mistakes can be avoided as well as infrastructure mistakes can be avoided. We have also built a healthcare platform where the intent is to collect large amount of data to make it available such that algorithms can be built on it and diagnostics can happen. For example, breast cancer, for example, retinopathy. All of this require a lot of data, a lot of capability of building the right models and driving diagnostics. AI for Youth is another program that we have been running. Over the last year, we have trained more than 100,000 people. You just heard a wonderful talk on what we have done for enabling AI as an education for 8th through 12th students in the CBSE school programs. The intent is to look at how AI can be part of the children growing up. So no longer it is a technology that they fear, but it is the technology that they're willing to adopt, willing to use, and create solutions out of it. We have trained schools in 6,000 cities and almost every single state. The goal is to have this AI for Youth program available to 220,000 schools. So when I look at a problem-solving approach, there are three things I look at. I look at people, I look at product, and I look at process. We have touched every single one of these. We have looked at products, for example, looking at smart mobility. We have looked at collision avoidance. We have looked at AI models for healthcare. Is the work done? Absolutely not. The intent here is to invite a lot of you to partner with us and create more and more solutions for societal good. The opportunity is immense, but what we have done is we've laid a very strong foundation, a very strong foundation to enable India to lead in this revolution of AI. Going to the next slide. What we will be announcing very soon is an applied research center for AI that leverages population scale data. You have seen that there are very many national level platforms, whether it is UPI, whether it is a GSTN. Our goal is to build an AI platform that is built over a robust data governance which drives privacy and security. What will this platform enable? This platform will enable annotated and curated data sets. The 3-4 segments that I talked to you about, one was health, the other was smart mobility, the other was collision avoidance, and then AI for youth, so education. We also want to make sure that the data exchange is open as well as secure. In addition, we've also started building foundational AI algorithms and tools, frameworks, libraries required. Who can access this platform and this, the collaterals that come with it? Startups, innovators, researchers, enterprises, and anybody who's driving AI solutions. I must tell you that leveraging this platform, leveraging the data that this research center has created, we have made presentations in conferences that are world-renowned. We've even got partners who are global experts who are contributing with us. You will very soon hear the expert in smart mobility, Professor Jitendra Malik. He has partnered with us. We have leveraged conferences to present not only the data, but the algorithms. So things have already begun. The intent is to drive this AI-led revolution such that we can create more and more value in healthcare smart mobility for India. Because like I said, there is a storm brewing in terms of the challenges that the world sees, whether it is the pandemic or whether it's global warming, whether it is building energy. All of those are population scale problems, and this is the platform that can be leveraged to drive solutions. Going to the next slide. What are some of the principles that this research center was founded on? To drive research, to develop solutions for the biggest and hardest problems for not just India, but for the humanity. Why are we here together for the next 4 days? Because we need collaboration. We need the best minds in India and the world from all disciplines, from academia, from industry, from government, from startups, everybody, the youth, the researchers, PhDs, everyone. What all of this will enable is to create foundation for the assets that we'll create for public good. The intention is this has open infrastructure that any and everybody can leverage to create economic value. McKinsey has done this analysis that the world will see 13 trillion added based on AI in the next 4 to 5 years. I want to see how India can grab not just the $500 billion that we have been analyzing and looking for, but significantly more of the 13 trillion that India could be generating and contributing. So I believe that India has an opportunity to lead and to deliver AI at population scale for not just India, but for the world. We have people, we have talent, we have investment, we have data, we have policy support, we have all critical ingredients. And on top of that, we have hunger. Going to the next slide. I already shared with you in the very first slide, what are the requirements? Talent, technology and IP, policy, and data. So from talent perspective, what we need to do is identify what are the top 3-4 problems that the world can benefit from, should we start working on. Once we identify the top 3-4 problems, how can we skill people in those areas? How can we leverage those people to build AI solutions and then implement them? Typically, technology adoption for 80% people in the past, whether it was automotive adoption or whether it was smartphone adoption or technology adoption like 2G to 3G to 4G, typically it takes 10 years. My belief is in the world of today, with the acceleration coming from the things like the pandemic, the adoption of AI is going to be much faster. If I were to predict, it's going to be 5 to 6 years. So the time to act is now. If I look at technology and IP, I told you that US and China are generating boatload of IPs. They're making boatload of investments. There's one country, however, the third country which is generating IP is Japan, doing 14% IP generation. What Japan lacks is talent. What Japan lacks is data. Is there an opportunity for India to partner with a country like Japan and address the gap we have and accelerate the growth of creating solutions leveraging AI? We have to work together and drive research, novel algorithms, and access to the latest compute architecture. Whether it is AI accelerators, whether it is programmable compute, whether it is CPU, whether it is GPU, whether it is non-volatile memory, we need access to the best compute architecture. And I'm happy to say that as Intel, I am committed to provide the computer solutions and all the portfolio products that are going to be required for India. Now, often we say that what worries us in AI is the policy requirements. There is so much talk about biases. What the data the machine takes, it builds its inferences based on what the data you give. And oftentimes it's bias. So we have to look at policy and regulatory support to make sure that their security is addressed, safety addressed, privacy is addressed, as well as bias is addressed. In terms of data, I really believe that we have workforce that can clearly be skilled for a lot of data requirements, curating of data, to contextualize data, to annotate data. I believe that a lot of people who are working as laborers can be reskilled to do a lot of this work. Then a lot of data exchange is required. We need a lot of security and privacy. Can India lead some of these policy requirements, regulatory requirements, because we are a data-rich country? We are a hungry country that is looking forward to leading the Industry Revolution 4.0 with AI. So here are the opportunities for us that we, as the research center that will be announced very soon, will be striving to do. Like I said, we've already done some work, but we have a lot more to do. And I'm seeking partnership from each and every one of you to be able to help us drive this mission, this agenda for the world. I want to go to the next slide. Here is a quote that is very, very dear to me. It was made by our own India leader, Dhirubhai Ambani. And each and every one of you can, empathize with it, because the last 10 to 15 years, this is what has been happening to us. What the quote says, if you don't build your dream, someone else will hire you to help them build theirs. So all the support, all of the outsourcing that was happening from India was we working on somebody else's dream. Time now is to catch our dream and to make sure we work on our own dreams. We work on solving the population scale problems that in turn make the people happy, make the quality of lives of people happier. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you participating with us, listening to us, and hopefully asking us questions that will help us understand your need and provide you the infrastructure so you can help us. Thank you very much.